Hey everybody, and welcome to this special on Jupiter entering Cancer. I'm Amani. I'm a karmic, holistic, astrological life coach, and I like to go in depth in all that I do, and all of my interpretations, especially when it comes to Venus, Mercury, Sun transits and everything really, are based on Vedic astrology, which is based on where the planets or the luminaries, which are the sun and the moon, are any given time in the sky. And all times are in GMT time as well. So yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, Jupiter in Cancer, the theme is the Great Mothers. That's what the moon is. Our motion in astrology, ruling the fourth house, our psychological home, our actual home, our end of life, our feelings, Cancer. And it's getting expansion by Jupiter. So the theme is the Great Mothers expansion. And this year, Jupiter enters Cancer on the 18th of October at 3:18 p.m. GMT time. Then Jupiter goes retrograde on the 11th of November at 5:42 GMT time. And Jupiter stays retrograde until it moves into Gemini again on the 5th of December while still in retrograde. Then Jupiter goes direct in Gemini on the 11th of March at 3:30 a.m. until the 1st of June 2026, when Jupiter enters Cancer again, and it stays in Cancer until the 31st of October. So, it's doing a backward dance, but it's going to be in Cancer for a good solid 8 months, apart from when it goes back into Gemini for about 3 months. Okay, so in astrology, Jupiter is seen as the great teacher, very benefic, a good energy. When used balanced, when used out of control, it can expand everything, especially our ego, right? And as it steps into the nurturing waters of Cancer, it's one of the most emotionally significant transits of this year. So Jupiter goes into Cancer about once every 12 years, and it returns to its sign of exaltation. And I'm going to explain what that means in a second. And this just brings a tidal wave of nurturing abundance and emotional expansion that gives the promise, if we use this energy wisely, to heal our collective and individual wounds through the power of compassion, empathy, self-forgiveness, and protective self-care and care in general. Exaltation in astrology refers to the position in which a planet expresses its energies most positively and effectively. So Jupiter here is really, really good. It allows us to focus on growth, personal growth, expanding our beliefs and mindset, and bring in abundance. And this improves Cancer's energy of nurturing, looking after our outer and inner home and emotional security. So this energy, Jupiter in Cancer, is good for looking after our family or issues related to family, intuition, and our emotional, psychological and spiritual well-being. So as I said, Jupiter remains in Cancer until next year of October, giving us over a year of expanded emotional intelligence and protective abundance. Of course, it's going to make that shift back into Gemini for 3 months. It's making a conjunction to the moon as it goes into Cancer this year, a square to the Sun, a trine to Saturn, and Neptune are opposition to Pluto, also a square to Chiron, and a trine to the moon's north node as well. And we can't forget the semi-square to the midheaven. So I'm going to go into what all this means later on. It also, as Jupiter enters Cancer this year, Saturn and Neptune are retrograde in Pisces, Chiron's retrograde in Aries, and Uranus is retrograde in Taurus as well. So this amplifies our ability to transform ourselves from the inside out, and it really supports emotional healing and nurturing growth in between deep internal structural routine changes, so changes to our day-to-day habits, thoughts, relationships and things like that. So the energetic frequency, as I said, as the astrological mother, the moon, Cancer is ruled by the moon, so it's not the moon, but yeah, it's ruled by the moon, awakens as Jupiter settles into Cancer energy, right? And it allows us to be more protective and soothe our wounded hearts and, heal what needs healing, as well as increasing our capacity for unconditional love for ourselves and others. And just think of it as the universe wrapping us in the most nurturing hug, promising that growth and healing can happen at the same time. And as I said, Jupiter is the planet of growth, wisdom and abundance, and it's sort of like watching a wise grandfather or grandperson or older person moving with the family. Suddenly everything becomes more generous, protective and deeply meaningful. But Yoda, Jupiter does get quite an entrance, because as it goes into, Cancer this year, it's caught in between two T-squares. The first one involving Pluto in Capricorn and the Sun in Libra, and the second with Chiron in Aries and the Sun in Libra as well at a 40% orb tightness. And if we think of it as Jupiter's arrived at a family union where everyone's having intense conversations about power and healing and what it truly means to care for one another. Meanwhile, there's a beautiful grand Earth trine between Venus in Virgo, Pluto and the Ascendant in Capricorn, and Uranus in Taurus at a 16% orb tightness. And this allows us to have a foundation of practical transformation, allowing us to do those practical, grounded daily actions to bring the changes that we need to bring into our life. So it's focused on us becoming more emotionally intelligent, and it's focused on creating security for ourselves and those who we love, But as I said, Jupiter transiting in Cancer is like watching a master chef decide to focus on comfort food. Everything becomes more nurturing, emotionally satisfying, and focused on what truly feeds the soul. Jupiter is our astrological teacher and bringer of good fortune, and as it settles into Cancer's domain of home, family and emotional security, this promises a period where growth comes through nurturing rather than conquering, and it's absolutely brilliant for anyone looking to expand their emotional intelligence and create more security in their home life, or build wealth through property, family businesses, or nurturing based careers. So, careers focus on healing and serving your experience, anything to do with the home, psychological, spiritual or physical, financial. So Jupiter in Cancer has a lovely way of making everything more generous and protective, and it's like, having an astrological insurance policy that specifically covers your heart and home. And this energy supports family expansion, whether through birth, adoption, or simply deepening bonds, existing family bonds, or, this can be DNA, blood family, or whoever you see as family, property investment, and careers in caregiving fields, But negatively, Jupiter in Cancer can manifest as emotional overwhelming, overprotectiveness that becomes smothering, and excessive attachment to family patterns that no longer serve growth, and just moodiness and temperamentalness, and it can also make us more clingy, and we can create situations where too much of the good things become problematic, and there's also the risk risk of using emotional manipulation to get what you want, or becoming so focused on personal family security that you ignore wider social responsibilities. And the best use of Jupiter in Cancer involves channeling Jupiter's expansion through Cancer's nurturing wisdom. Think strategic home improvement, family business development, or deepening your emotional skills in ways that serve both personal growth and community well-being. It's a great energy for anything involving real estate, hospitality, counselling, or creating businesses that provide genuine care and security for others. And in terms to use this energy practically, as I said, home improvements, investing in property, increasing, you feeling comfortable in your physical home or your psychological, emotional, and spiritual home within, increasing your emotional intelligence through therapy or counselling training, or journaling, listening to podcasts, reading books, or creating or continuing family traditions and security systems that will benefit multiple generations. To start building a legacy, continuing the family legacy. Cancer is opposite the 10th house in Capricorn. They're both cardinal energies, initiating energies. Cancer's initiating water sign, and Capricorn's initiating earth sign. And often, what we have to remember about our childhood for the most part, and I know that in a lot of countries people are still oppressed, but in the Western world is where we don't have control over anything. But what happens in childhood is that a lot of stuff happens to us, whether we're bullied, rejected, abandoned, parents left, and we carry this throughout our lifetime. And it's not, there's nothing to be ashamed of there, but what we have to realise, adulthood is the time when we can take our control back. It's the time to heal what needs healing and making the choices to become who you want to be, rather than allowing, that first 16 to 18 years of our life. And don't get me wrong, some horrendous things can happen to us in that time. But, we have to sort of realise that adulthood is about making our own decisions rather than just living through the lens of the past, which is just allowing that time in our life when we really didn't have control with children. We have to do what the family say, and all of that for the most part, So this energy really wants us to heal ourselves on a deep level, psychological, emotionally, and spiritually, and provides the energy to do that. So Jupiter, as I said, rules Sagittarius in astrology, and co-rules the 12th house, which is the home of Neptune and Pisces as well. So it sort of controls wisdom, higher learning, our ability to be optimistic, to get back up after heartache and life's challenges, right? To grow, to have adventure, and also because it rules Pisces as well, co-rules it wants us to work on our spiritual, philosophical and intellectual growth, and having more compassion for ourselves and others as well. So Jupiter energy is like an astrological magnifying glass. Whatever it touches becomes bigger, more meaningful and more optimistic. It's the planet that, asks us, what if we could do this even better? And Cancer energy is ruled by the moon, as I said, and this brings emotional depth, nurturing instincts, our family focus, our intuitive wisdom and protective care, right? And also, as a karmic astrologer, I see our moon sign as the personality of all our reincarnations. So what that means is, if your moon's in Cancer or your moon's in Libra or Sagittarius, this is the level of development you have learned in your previous incarnations, and sort of that's who you are internally. But the sun is the direction, and the moon's north node, that your soul wants to take this lifetime, right? So Cancer is a water sign that does well at creating security, maintaining traditions, and providing the emotional foundation that allows others to grow and thrive, right? Cancer energy is maternal, intuitive, and deeply concerned with what makes people feel safe safe and loved. And when Jupiter meets Cancer, we get, growth and expansion that feels like we're coming home. And growth can happen through emotional intelligence rather than intellectual achievement, abundance that focus on security rather than adventure, and wisdom that comes from the heart rather than the head. So this combination creates opportunities for emotional and domestic growth, family prosperity, and careers built on genuine care for others. So the most beautiful thing about this pairing is that Jupiter's natural optimism softens Cancer's tendency towards worry and defensiveness, while Cancer's emotional wisdom gives Jupiter's a more expansive and more nurturing and sustainable quality. So instead of grow at any cost, we get more thoughtful growth mindsets, right, that considers the emotional impact and long-term security impact for everyone involved. So, to really use this energy practically, focus on anything that increases your emotional intelligence and nurturing abilities, as I said, and deepen connections with extended family, your chosen family, but watch out for being too overwhelmed by too many family demands or placing too much demands on others, being too overprotective in a way that gets in the way of other people's growth, spending too much on home comfort or family needs because you're ignoring dealing with the underlying emotional, psychological or spiritual imbalances, right? And try not to become so focused on personal security that you avoid necessary risks for growth, In terms of the financial meanings, it's a good time for property investment, home-based business ventures, family financial planning, and investments in security building assets like life insurance or emergency funds. Money can flow more easier through nurturing and care-based enterprises. Negatively, there can be overspending on home comfort, family expenses or emotional purchases. Financial decisions can be driven by fear rather than wisdom, and family disputes can damage relationships while, depleting resources. Politically, it allows us to focus on family values, housing policies, healthcare and social safety nets. Leaders who demonstrate genuine care for constituents and their well-being politically, and policies that prioritize long-term community security over short-term goals and gains. So negatively though, there can be nationalistic policies that protect insiders while excluding outsiders. Political manipulation can increase, and we're seeing a lot of that already, a lot of talk across the nations about who has the right to be in which country and stuff like that without looking at the underlying reasons, such as why these people are fleeing their countries. Yes, some people are lying to get status in other countries, I'm not saying, but a lot of the time people are leaving their countries because of the oppression or the financial instability and stuff that happens there. So yeah, there can be an increase in political manipulation through fear-based family rhetoric, teachings and speeches, and governments can overreach, in terms of their policies and which can diminish individual freedoms, justifying it by protecting citizens from perceived threats, but the threat isn't really as big as what they're trying to make out. In terms of the materialistic social collective level, it can make us focus on creating safer, more nurturing communities, increasing support for families and caregivers, and social movements that are focused on housing and food security, and cultural appreciation for traditional feminine values like cooperation and care. Negatively, social pressure to conform to traditional family routines can increase. There can be collective anxiety about security that leads to hoarding or exclusionary behaviour, or community conflicts over resources and protective boundaries. boundaries. Psychologically, it can increase our emotional intelligence and empathy. We can have better boundaries around giving and receiving care, healing of family, of origin wounds, and psychological growth through understanding our emotional needs and patterns. But negatively, we can regress, go back to childlike emotional patterns. There can be an increase in codependent behaviour and relationships that's disguised as nurturing. We can have a difficulty separating individual identity from our family role, or we can use emotional manipulation to control others in terms of their esoteric hidden meanings. Positively, we can understand the sacred spiritual nature of home and family more, develop our psychic and intuitive abilities. Spiritual growth can happen through giving care to others and service, turn into a healing career, or increasing the healing and nurturing you do in your career. And we can recognize that creating emotional security is a form of spiritual practice. Negatively, spiritual bypassing of family responsibilities can happen, using psychic abilities to manipulate rather than serve, or believing that spiritual growth requires abandoning material world concerns about security and care. On the symbolic, emotional, creative level, our creative expression can honour our family heritage and emotional truth. Artistic projects that create emotional healing and security can increase, and creative collaboration that feels like a chosen family rather than a simple professional partnership. Negatively, creative blocks due to family responsibilities or emotional overwhelm can happen. We can use our artistic expression to avoid dealing with practical family responsibilities, or our creative projects can manipulate emotions rather than genuinely expressing them. So now I'm going to talk deeper about the aspects that Jupiter's making as it goes into Cancer this year, and it's going to flavour the whole year that Jupiter's in Cancer, influence. So the Moon's making a conjunction to Jupiter, and this is separating at 1.43, but it's a conjunction between our emotional needs and our need to grow. So positively, it allows us to grow emotionally and be more optimistic, and increases our intuitive abilities. It gives opportunities for growth in our family and our home. It also allows us to integrate our need for growth and practically doing things. But negatively, we can feel emotionally let down if opportunities, experiences like relationships or people or our own personal development doesn't, live up to our expectations or standards. Or we can just become too nostalgic, sentimental about recent positive experiences rather than building on them. So, we must not stay stuck. We must keep on progressing. The Sun also makes a square to Jupiter, and this is applying, so influencing us more at a 2.49 degree orb. And this brings tension between our individual identity and our emotional growth and our personal expression and our, responsibilities to our family. So the square provides the motivation needed to make the growth changes that we need in our sense of self, personal identity and family life, and the confidence to take on bigger domestic or emotional challenges, and the ability to balance all of this, our individual needs with our family responsibilities in creative ways. So being open to new solutions to live our lives, new day-to-day habits and ways of talking and communicating with ourselves and others, right? But negatively, it can add to the conflicts between our personal desires and family expectations. We can just be too overconfident in our emotional and domestic matters, and this can lead to poor judgment, us making the wrong choices. we can have the tendency to promise more emotional support than we can actually provide, or, family disputes can be triggered, by our personal growth. People may not like that you want to change, or humans in general don't like change, right? And so just try not to promise more than what you can give, or apologize for the times when you thought you could do something but you cannot. Jupiter also makes a trine to Saturn, so this expands our routine, our optimism, and our ability to keep it real, as well as us taking responsibility for our growth, because as we make that transition, or learn adulthood as the decades roll on, it is our responsibility to look after our emotional, psychological, spiritual and financial and other needs, so it provides the perfect balance, this trine between Saturn and Jupiter, for our need to grow and to be disciplined in that growth. So it gives us the ability to create sustainable long-term growth in our family and home life. So again, it supports us being able to make plans financially, invest in property, or build security that lasts in any other way that we choose, right? But negatively, because it is a harmonious aspect, we can just take it for granted and not put in the effort needed to make the most of these opportunities for responsible, structured growth. Jupiter makes a trine to Neptune, and this is a too, and it just it's a nice, lovely flowing aspect between our ability to grow and bring spirituality into our life and have more compassion and intuitive wisdom. So it increases our emotional and spiritual growth, right, allowing us to be more empathetic and understanding, and it can allow us to have more intuitive insights about our domestic and security needs and other people's needs at this time. So the ability to communicate without words, to listen to the words in between words and body language and stuff like that. So it's beautiful for healing family wounds through forgiveness and understanding. But negatively, the energy is subtle because it's at a wide orb, right, and it's still applying, but still it can just lead to us having unrealistic manifestations and expectations about family harmony, or we can use spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with practical family responsibilities, right? So we need to watch out for that. Jupiter makes an opposition to Pluto, so this creates tension between, or adds to the tension rather, between our need to grow emotionally, psychologically and spiritually, and being able to make the changes that we need to in terms of our nurturing and giving and receiving needs. So positively, it adds depth and intensity that's needed for deep, profound, next level family healing. It gives us the ability to transform family patterns through expanding our emotional understanding of other people's and our own problems, and adds to the power to create long-lasting change to our domestic security. But negatively, it adds to the family power struggles or control dramas or manipulation dramas that can come up, right, whereas we emotionally manipulate others, or people try to do that to get what they want, right, and they can just also it adds to the conflict between personal growth and family stability, and also adds a kind of intense, overwhelming energy to change. So just watch out for that. Realize not everybody can change or wants to change. Sometimes change, a lot of the time, actually change is something we have to do on our own, and we have to respect other people's limits as well. And Jupiter makes a square to Chiron at 1.111 applying. So again, it brings tension between our need to grow and our healing needs, and it sort of like can provide breakthrough moments in family healing, allowing us to transform family wounds into wisdom that serve ourselves and others, and it allows us to grow through confronting rather than avoiding difficult family patterns, but negatively can add to us feeling overwhelmed, and as our family wounds and problems are harder to ignore because this Jupiter in Cancer wants us to deal with it, right? There can be a tendency to over-identify with being a victim in our family dynamics, and it can bring conflict or add to the conflict between wanting family harmony and needing to confront painful truths that we'd rather avoid, and we can again just use family healing work to avoid life responsibilities as well, so we need to watch out for that. So just focusing too much on, my partner needs to change, my mum needs to change, rather than the changes and the things that we can control, because as I said, as we go into adulthood, the only thing we can really control is ourselves. And that's why we need to put our main focus and learn to accept people. A lot of the time people can't be who we want them to be. I've spent many time thinking, why can't we all just be a little bit nicer, but I forget that once we've lived a certain way in being emotionally defensive, or we have erroneous, incorrect beliefs about how things should be, and a lot of the time people want others to be exactly like them rather than accepting each other's differences, so we just need to take responsibility for the things that we can control at this time and give grace to others as well. Jupiter also makes a semi-square to the midheaven, so this brings a subtle but persistent friction between Jupiter's need for emotional expansion and the midheaven's call to, receive public achievement and to look after our reputation at any cost, which typically means holding in our emotions or any other undesirable or what we see as undesirable personality expressions and, states that are not readily accepted by the mainstream culture, right? So positively, it can, motivate ambition to nurture others through our career. Adding to that, it can inspire us to bring heartfelt values and unconditional love into our public life, and, motivate us to create a legacy rooted in compassion and care. But negatively, we can feel torn between home and career. We can struggle with balancing personal growth and professional demands, or we can just experience tension between our private needs and public expectations, in terms of the two T-squares that are happening. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what a T-square is in astrology and the positives and negatives of a transiting T-square. So a T-square in astrology is when 3 or more planets. Normally some people count points. I will only count a point such as the moon's north node if it was like conjunct a planet like Venus at the same degree, something like that in a T-square. I wouldn't necessarily include it on its own. So a T-square is when 3 or more planets form a right-angled triangle in the transit chart, and this configuration involves 2 planets being involved each other, creating tension, and a third planet squares both of the opposing planets, and this is why it's called like a T-square, because it looks like a T. And the positives of a transiting T-square include increased motivation for growth and change, opportunities for self-awareness and transformation, and the potential for breakthroughs in difficult situations. It can act as a catalyst for personal development and push us outside of our comfort zones. Negatively, we can struggle with decision making due to the conflicting energies. We can experience a heightened emotional intensity, leading to stress or anxiety and challenges in communication and our relationships. And it can also kind of bring internal conflict to some of us as well, because of the external obstacles that come, or the internal thoughts of unresolved psychological, emotional and spiritual trauma that can come up. And dealing with these issues internally or externally that come up can require patience and resilience to overcome. So The first one between Jupiter in Cancer, the Sun in Libra and Pluto in Capricorn, which is just 12% tight, so not as tight as the one I'm about to do after this. So this adds to the tension between our emotional growth, represented by Jupiter, bringing diplomatic harmony, which is represented by the Sun in Libra, and our ability to transform, which is represented by Pluto, right? So it's like trying to renovate the family home whilst hosting a diplomatic dinner party, with all the dust clouds and paint tools and everything all around. It can be a bit hard and a bit stressful, so ultimately it allows us to have breakthrough moments in our family healing, and it can add to the relationship balance, and it allows us to be more organized in the way that we change things. Jupiter in Cancer provides the emotional wisdom and nurturing energy, and the Sun in Libra allows us to be diplomatic and graceful and cooperative in seeking a fair resolution to any problems that come up. And Pluto in Capricorn gives us the power to make lasting changes to family or domestic routines, but negatively it can add to us feeling torn between our family emotional needs, which is represented by Jupiter in Cancer, our desire for relationship harmony, which is Sun in Libra, and the need for sometimes uncomfortable transformation, which is represented by Pluto in Capricorn. And it adds to the family power struggles that can come up, where some people want change and some people want to resist it. So the best use of this T-square energy is to understand that sometimes loving families need to have difficult conversations, and that this can lead to the necessary changes that are needed, and that true family security sometimes requires temporary instability as old patterns transform. The T-square between Chiron in Aries, Jupiter in Cancer and the Sun in Libra, which is tighter at 40% orb tightness. So it's like, it helps us to have that family therapy that's needed, that can keep everyone happy. It allows us to heal individual wounds through understanding our family needs deeper, while maintaining relationship harmony and fairness. It's good for healing work that empowers rather than victimizes, but negatively it can add to the tension between individual healing needs and family harmony, and we can have a difficulty balancing our personal assertiveness and enforcing our boundaries and respecting other people's boundaries because of the needs of everybody. So the key is to recognize that true healing requires both emotional support and honest, fair communication, and individual healing can actually increase rather than threaten family harmony when approached with wisdom and care, right? So now I'm going to talk about what a grand trine is in astrology, the positives and negatives of a transiting grand trine. So a grand trine in astrology is when 3 planets are in an equilateral triangle, and they're each approximately 122 degrees apart. And this configuration creates a harmonious flow of energy between the 3 planets involved, enchanting their respective qualities. So positively, it can increase our creativity and productivity, and it can bring more emotional balance and stability into our life, especially in challenging times. So it's a nice, easy energy to work with. It can bring increased intuition and insight, so we can gain deeper insights into our life path and decisions, and this can help us make more informed choices and just become more balanced and stable within as well. But negatively, we can lack motivation and complacency because, trine energy comes easy, it's harmonious, not challenging, and this can cause us to be passive and unmotivated in going after our goals. This is why a lot of individuals with a lot of trines in their chart, trine and harmonious aspects like sextiles cannot use them because everything can come so easily. They're not aware and they can miss their opportunities, thinking they'll always come. There can also be an overemphasis on our comfort zone, and we can rely too heavily on what we know rather than newness, and this can make us be stagnant and miss opportunities. and the grand Earth trine that's happening between Venus in Virgo, Pluto and the ascendant in Capricorn, and Uranus in Taurus, as I said at the beginning, gives us that foundation of practical, grounded transformation that's needed, that can help us refine our values and beliefs, and allows us to be more innovative in the ways that we seek and look for in, emotional, psychological, financial and physical security. So it can be like having an astrological construction crew that specializes in building beautiful lasting change, and Venus in Virgo brings discriminating taste and practical beauty. Pluto in Capricorn provides transformative power that we can use to change our reputation, and Uranus in Taurus allows us to be innovative in our approaches to seeking security and in chancing our family values. And the ascendant's involvement shows that transformation is highly personal and visible to others, at the moment. So it allows us to make those public changes, and it supports us by providing us with the practical tools for creating the security and beauty that Cancer's looking for. And instead of just emotional nurturing, it gives us the support to build lasting foundations through thoughtful action, which is brought to us by Venus in Virgo. Strategic transformation that comes through Pluto in Capricorn, and innovative approaches to stability, which is represented by Uranus in Taurus. So now I'm just going to talk about the karmic meanings and lessons and collective karma and past life memories and dreams that can happen at this time. So the karmic lessons of Jupiter in Cancer revolve around learning to create genuine emotional security rather than just comfort, and understanding that true nurturing sometimes requires saying no or setting boundaries. The soul is learning that family and emotional bonds, connections are meant to support growth rather than prevent it, and that security comes from building sustainable routines rather than hoarding resources. And past life memories or dreams that may happen at this time involve sort of like lifetimes where you may have been a leader in the family, a caregiver or a community nurturer, and experiences of abundance or lack at home, especially regarding your security needs not being met, and memories of family businesses or domestic enterprises or situations where you had to choose between individual growth and family loyalty may come to your mind, to remind you of making a choice this lifetime in a more balanced way. We may dream of family homes, kitchens or situations where we were either providing or receiving a sense of care and nurturing. In terms of the collective meaning, it's about healing our relationship collectively with home, family and emotional security, and moving beyond survivor-based thinking towards abundance-based nurturing that serves everyone's growth. And it asks us to collectively transform how we care for each other, moving from systems and habits based on scarcity and competition towards those based on genuine abundance and mutual support. So now I'm going to talk about how Jupiter in Cancer influences our relationships. So significantly, it allows us to improve our family relationships and opportunities for family business or property ventures to start or continue to flourish and do well. It increases understanding between family members and healing of generational patterns through increased wisdom and compassion positively, as I said, but negatively over involvement or smothering behaviour or financial strain from excessive family generosity, family conflicts over change or regression to childlike roles within our family dynamics can cause problems, so only borrow what you can afford, or only lend, give money to people that you either just want to give it to, or will pay you back. Just be careful there. Using this energy to expand family connections and bonds and maintain healthy individual boundaries is the best use in terms of family relationships. And remember that true family support encourages everyone's growth and independence. In terms of our friendship relationships, it can feel like our chosen family right now. Our social connections can provide genuine emotional support and security. Friends can become business partners or collaborators in nurturing ventures, businesses, and we can just expand our social circle through family connections. So, maybe becoming friends with one of our friends' family members and stuff like that, or lovers for some of you. Negatively, we can become overly dependent or emotionally demanding on our friends. Friends can take advantage of our increased generosity. Our social obligations and responsibilities can drain rather than nourish our energy, and friendship conflicts over different approaches to care and support can happen. So it's important to look for friendships that feel mutually supporting and nurturing, and practice giving care and support in ways that empower rather than create dependency. In terms of our co-worker relationships, it gives us opportunities for mentoring. Our workplace friends can feel like family right now, or we can also be mentored by others as well as mentoring them, and we can work better in teams, especially on projects that focus on care and service, and we can just grow through nurturing based work or family business involvement. But negatively, workplace drama or over involvement in co-workers' personal lives and professional boundaries can become unclear due to emotional connections. Workplace conflicts over care and responsibility can happen, or taking on too much caretaking responsibility at work. So it's important to maintain professional boundaries whilst bringing genuine care and emotional intelligence to workplace relationships. And we should look for workplace environments that value both competence and compassion. In terms of committed relationships, our relationships can grow through shared domestic projects. We can have increased emotional intimacy and security opportunities for family growth or property investment, and we can just have a deeper understanding of each other's emotional needs and family backgrounds. Negatively, it can add to the relationship pressure from family expectations or interference. One partner can become overly dependent on the other for emotional security. There can be domestic conflicts over expansion or change, or relationship regression to parent-child dynamics and vibes. So the best use of this is support each other's individual growth whilst building shared emotional security, and communicate openly about family influences on our relationship without letting them control our partnership. In terms of our hookup relationships, our casual connections can feel emotionally more safer and nurturing. Our physical relationships can provide genuine comfort and care. We can have better boundaries around giving and receiving in casual encounters, and attraction to partners who feel emotionally mature and secure. But negatively, casual relationships can become unexpectedly intense or emotionally complicated. We can use physical connection to meet unmet nurturing needs, and this is not long-term sustainable, right? We can also have difficulty maintaining emotional boundaries in casual encounters as well, or expect family level emotional support from casual partners, so we have to be clear about emotional boundaries and expectations in casual relationships, and make sure connections feel genuinely caring and respectful for everyone involved. If you're single or self-partnered, it can increase our emotional self-sufficiency, independence, allowing us to nurture ourselves and others through expanded social connections that provide family-like support. It gives opportunities for personal growth through caregiving or service, and we can attract potential partners who appreciate our emotional maturity security. Negatively, we can use independence to avoid the vulnerability of intimate partnership, become overly self-protective or defensive about emotional needs. We can feel emotional needs through family or friends in ways that, prevent romantic connection. And this can be a good or bad thing, not everyone wants to be romantic, but sometimes, our family or other relationships can get in the need of us being able to, receive romantic connection, especially if you're looking for it. So it's important to balance our emotional independence with openness to intimate partnerships, and remember that healthy independence can increase rather than prevent meaningful romantic connections, but that's if you're looking for it. If you don't want one, then you don't want one, but if you're open to it, then remember that too much, be independent, be self-sufficient, but also make space to let the right people in. In terms of career development, it brings, like I said, increased opportunity in nurturing fields like education, hospitality, family services and healthcare. We can have success through family businesses or home-based enterprises. Professional growth through emotional intelligence and care-based leadership can happen, and there can be work opportunities that provide genuine security and stability. But negatively, there can be career limitations due to family responsibilities, professional conflicts between business growth and family responsibilities. Our workplace can be emotionally overwhelming right now, or our caretaking, how we want to look after each other or other people, right, can become like stress, a burden right now, and our career decisions may be driven by security fears rather than growth opportunities. So it's important to look for career paths that use our natural nurturing abilities, if that's what you want, whilst also providing genuine growth and learning opportunities. And remember that true security comes from developing competence, expertise, rather than just avoiding risks. In terms of our personal development, we can increase our growth and emotional intelligence and empathy. We can heal our family of origin wounds and patterns, develop genuine self-nurturing and care abilities, and grow through understanding our emotional needs and learning to meet them healthily. Negatively, our personal development can become self-indulgent, and we can avoid necessary challenges. We can regress to childhood emotional patterns, and we can use personal growth work to avoid practical responsibilities, or just become overly focused on emotional processing at the expense of action, So it's important to balance emotional growth with practical use and make sure that personal development serves us, rather than, getting in the way of us being able to contribute meaningfully to family and community. And just, balanced our personal comfort needs with giving in the right ways to others. In terms of our spiritual development, we can understand the sacred nature of home and family, and we can grow spiritually through service and caregiving. We can have a development of intuitive and psychic abilities, and a recognition that creating emotional security for others is a form of spiritual practice. Negatively, spiritual bypassing the family responsibilities or emotional challenges, using spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with practical domestic concerns, or believing that spiritual growth requires abandoning material world needs for security and comfort. So it's important to integrate spiritual insights into practical family and domestic life, and recognize that caring for your physical and emotional needs is part of our spiritual development rather than a separate from it. In terms of our educational development, it gives learning opportunities in professions related to care, family and psychology, domestic arts, educational experiences that feel emotionally nurturing and supportive. We can experience academic growth through understanding family and cultural history, and we can just see that learning is really beneficial to us, and we can learn in a way that prepares us for roles involving care and responsibility. Negatively, our educational decisions can be driven by family pressure rather than personal interest. Our academic schoolwork and all of that can overwhelm us due to trying to balance learning with family responsibilities. We can avoid challenging educational opportunities due to security fears, so it's important to look for educational opportunities that combine genuine learning with preparation for meaningful service, and remember that true education should increase rather than conflict with your ability to care for yourself and others. In terms of self-partner development, it can increase our ability to create a nurturing, secure home environment for ourselves and others. We can become more emotionally self-sufficient in a way that comes from genuine self-care rather than defensive independence, and individual development can prepare us to offer genuine partnership if and when we choose. Negatively, we can use independence to avoid the challenges and vulnerability of family relationships, which can create such a perfect individual security that you become resistant to the natural interdependence of human relationships, or we can develop superiority complexes about family-free living, So it's best to focus on developing genuine emotional maturity and self-nurturing abilities that increase rather than prevent meaningful relationships. And remember that healthy independence includes the capacity for appropriate interdependence, cooperating with others and all that good stuff, So in terms of the best things to do while Jupiter's transiting in Cancer, if you're more creative, use this energy on projects that, honour family heritage, culture and roots and themes of home and belonging. Consider writing family stories, creating art that explores emotions, or developing creative projects that serve your community's nurturing needs, perhaps community gardens, family photography or therapeutic art programs. Professionals explore career opportunities that combine your professional skills with genuine care and service, perhaps consulting that helps families or communities, leadership roles that emphasizes emotional intelligence, or business ventures that provide security and nurturing to clients or employees. Entrepreneurs, this is a wonderful energy for launching family businesses, home-based enterprises or ventures in care economy, anything from elder care services to family-friendly hospitality businesses that focus on creating enterprises that provide genuine security and nurturing while building sustainable abundance. Alternative healers, you can work on expanding your healing practice to include family system work, ancestral generational healing and methods that explore the connection between emotional security and physical health. You can consider training or expanding your training in family therapy, developing healing programs for families, or creating healing spaces that feel like safe homes. Lovers, focus on creating deeper emotional security and family-like bonds in your relationship. This might involve planning for shared property ownership, discussing family planning, starting a family, etc., creating beautiful domestic spaces together, or deepening your understanding of each other's family backgrounds and emotional needs. For singles and those who are self-partnered, use this energy to create a home environment that truly nurtures your soul, develop your emotional intelligence and capacity for healthy relationships, or spend time in communities, activities that use your natural caring abilities whilst building, chosen family connections. In terms of self-reflection questions that can help you focus during this time. In terms of your financial needs, you can ask, how can I create financial security that supports both my individual growth and capacity to care for others? And this can help you balance Jupiter's need for growth with Cancer's security focus, recognizing that true abundance serves both personal and family needs. You can ask, what does family nurturing mean to me? And and how can I use money in a way that genuinely cares for myself and others rather than just provide empathy and comfort. And this explores the difference between true nurturing and indulgence, right? You can also ask, how can I balance generous giving with wise financial boundaries that protect my long-term security? Because this is because Jupiter in Cancer can sometimes lead to overgiving that, depletes your resources. So, this can help you not do that. In terms of your emotional needs, you can ask, what does genuine emotional security feel like to me? And how can I create this from within rather than look for it entirely from others? And this confronts Cancer's need for security with Jupiter's emphasis on personal growth and wisdom. You can also ask, how can I expand my capacity for emotional intimacy whilst maintaining healthy boundaries? And this can help you, just stay balanced, because Jupiter wants to expand everything, including emotional connections, whilst Cancer needs protection, right? So this helps you balance that. So you can also ask, what family patterns or emotional habits do I need to outgrow in order to create healthy relationships? And this connects Jupiter's growth orientation with Cancer's family focus. And in terms of your spiritual needs, you can ask, how can my spiritual practice support my ability to create genuine emotional security in family? And this integrates spiritual development with practical family life. You can also ask, what does it mean to serve something greater than myself through my role in family and community? And because Jupiter connects personal experience to larger meaning and purpose, this can help you think about, your greater sort of like purpose. You can ask, how can I honour both my individual spiritual path and my connections to family and our family culture and traditions? And this helps you balance spiritual growth with respect for inherited wisdom. In terms of your psychological needs, you can ask, what does emotional maturity mean to me? And how can I continue growing psychologically while still honouring my need for comfort and security? And this confronts the potential conflict between growth and safety. And you can also ask, how can I heal my family of origin wounds without becoming either victimized by them or disconnected from my family? And it allows us to deal with the issues around our family that Jupiter in Cancer brings to the surface for healing. You can also ask, what does healthy emotional dependency look like versus codependency or emotional isolation? And this explores the balance between connection and freedom. In terms of your physical needs, you can ask, how can I create a home environment that truly supports my physical health and emotional well-being? What does physical nurturing mean for my body? How can I care for myself in ways that feel genuinely loving rather than just, dutiful? And this connects Jupiter's joy and abundance with Cancer's nurturing instincts. You can ask, how can I balance my need for comfort and security with physical challenges that promote growth and strength? And this confronts potential stagnation, staying in your comfort zone, and pushes you out of it, or helps you push yourself out of it by getting you to think about what things you do for comfort and what things you need for growth, right? So ultimately, Jupiter in Cancer represents an opportunity to expand our capacity for genuine emotional intelligence, unconditional love for ourselves and others, family healing, and it helps us create long-lasting security that serves multiple generations if we're open to using the energy that way. The T-squared challenges push growth through necessary tension, and the supportive Grand Earth trine provides the practical tools that we need for transformation over the coming year. So it allows us to look at deep, meaningful change rather than just surface level comfort. The challenge lies in avoiding the temptation to use, expansion as an excuse for emotional overwhelm or family drama, and learning to balance generous nurturing with wise boundaries that serve everyone's growth rather than getting away with it. So it just allows us to build genuine emotional domestic security, heal family patterns, and develop a kind of wisdom that comes from understanding what truly nourishes human beings as well as ourselves, right? It asks us to become a wise family leader in our own life, whether it's in our biological families, chosen families, or just within the broader human family, in a way that benefits the collective and allows you to care for yourself and others and build your emotional wisdom. So yes, that's the end of this very in-depth on Jupiter transiting in Cancer. I am Amani, your holistic astrological karmic life coach. Take care and see you next time.